Come on. Every step looking more like an engine. I prefer to have the bottom end with the nut facing up, just less to get caught on for whatever reason. Just don't need anything dangling down back there. Base plate mounted on the oil cooler first, then you pop it on here. I did it the other way around, was not working. Also, got to remove the 3 and 4 engine tin. Installing the generator base and the oil fill tube. They are combined. The service manual shows a straight breather tube going down from the oil fill. Mine has a pretty serious bend in it. The bend looks intentional. So that's making installation a little bit of a pain. I could simply remove the pulley tin. What I did instead, you can see here, this hole right here is where the oil breather tube goes down. And if it was straight, it would drop down just fine. Mine's rather bent, so I'm going to actually kind of bend it around, get it in there, then drop this thing down, and we should be good to go. This thing's gonna be a pain. How did it get on there? There we go. A little healthy persuasion, but not unhealthy persuasion. So we'll be satisfied. All right, nuts. Wrong size washer, right size washer. Time to get a few bendy attachments. Time for the long screwdriver. To simplify my life, I pulled the hub off. I'm hoping that will allow me to see a little better about what's going on here and have a little more control over what that thing is doing. It is officially called the Woodruff key, by the way. Okay, that simplified my life. Hubs, shims. Got to tighten that sucker down to 45 foot-pounds. So I'm going to get to that, and then I'll bring you guys back when I'm putting it on the shroud itself. Done. I'm just going to drop it in to the fan housing itself. Again, that vent, which sucks air in and helps cool the generator itself, comes out here at the bottom, goes on the bottom. The hardware kit from Empy, which overall is fine. It's good quality hardware. The only thing is it comes in one giant bag and they don't tell you what anything is. So unless you label every piece of old hardware, if you're missing a whole bunch of pieces and you need to use that kit, you're going to have to figure it out on your own. Go. Got a lot of extra holes in this thing. I got a feeling some of those need to be plugged, so I'm going to have to go find a few grommets. Okay, I filled in most of the holes. As far as I can tell, these three down here are for the heater flaps, which I'm not running. That I also believe is for the heater strap. That is for the accelerator throttle cable to the carburetor. These two were just drilled in. There's no nuts. They don't go really anywhere, so I just plugged them off. These two are for the distributor. I think up here was supposed to be a metal circle clip like this one to hold the wiring harness. So that's missing. Not sure what I'll do about it. This one up here, don't know what it went to. Again, there's no captive nut on the other side. This is another one. Not sure what to do. This is another one. I think there is a captive nut on the back of that one. These three down here, also again, the heater flaps. This was an oval hole, so I basically took a larger grommet and cut a quarter of it out and used just that. Did the same thing on the back. So now I can drop this thing in. In. In case you can't find it on the net, this thing goes inside the three lips of the top cylinder tin. Alright, not hard work. It's pretty cramped. Normally if I'm doing this amount of work I'd want to move the shell of the bug outside, but we are having, by California standards, one hell of a rainstorm. Inside, there's a teeny bit of a gap there, but I'm not worried about it. Inside, same on the other side, and then you got your foam insulation up in here around the oil cooler so that no air wants to go around it. The only air that this thing is going to get is going to suck in from right there. Boom, right through the oil cooler. So now what you got to do is mount this to that stud there, and then down there that is a captive nut, and that holds this guy. Boom. Okay. And then you have the rear engine tin slide. This thing slides through it. So before I mount this up and that up, I'm going to see if I need to add the rear engine, well, technically front engine tins, and we'll proceed from there. Got the two gaskets on. This is the one that comes in a straight piece with a lip, fat side in, skinny side out. The angled roof of the doghouse is going to drop inside this. You want it to be a snug fit. This is the seal that goes around when it slides in here. So boom, seals up tight. So this, by the way, has to be in there at least loosely before you slide it on here, or you ain't getting it in. More scratches in the red paint, but back of the engine under the doghouse cover. Whoops. That'll be fine by me. Now that this is in place and this is in place, I'm just sliding that gasket that goes around this down as snug as I can get it. Remember, this is the cold air intake. It is getting cold air from here, which is, you know, transmission, axles. This is cool air from under the car up, and then it's going to go through this guy over the oil cooler, boom, through. So you do want this to be a tight seal, because then it is keeping as little heat from the rest of the engine bay as possible from getting sucked over the oil cooler. So this drops in, okay, down and in, but I got a gap all along here that I don't like. I'm going to put some insulation on that. So the cooling tins that I got have the heater box cutout deletes, right? The hose that goes from here down to the heater box instead of these J tubes and the GT exhaust. So what that means is, while I don't have the large holes here, I also do not have the holes for that piece there, and I need it. So what I've done is I've given myself an approximate cutout on both sides, there and there. And I'm going to go over to the cutoff wheel and cut those out so that I can have the intake manifold heat risers basically attached. So that's my next gig. First draft of the cutout, the silver is where I still have to take a little bit more off. Same over here. So I'm going to go do that and then clean up those rough edges. To quote David Freiberger, bam! Yeah, I forgot to add the heat riser tube in the intake manifold. So all of this had to come off again, put that thing on, hook it to the exhaust, and then put the whole thing back on. Well, wasn't going to show it. Language not safe for work. Need a little trimming right there. 2 steps forward, 1 step back, or 2 steps forward, 3 steps back, and now I'm trying to step forward again. Okay, service manual, right? Here's what it says. To install the intake manifold. Check the intake manifold and preheating pipe flanges are flat and undamaged. Inspect for leakage. Use new gaskets in cylinder heads and at flanges. The preheater gasket with the smaller opening goes on the left side. When manifold is installed, all flange holes must align with studs and threaded holes. Tighten nuts and bolts uniformly. That's it. Okay, so here's what I have figured out, because I've taken this thing on and off a couple different times. Everything's loose. These are going inside this pipe. They may not supposed to be, but they're going there. I think they're supposed to. Rubber gaskets are pushed all the way onto the main exhaust manifold, not the downpipes. This pipe over here cannot be put in if this is attached. You have to lift it up to tuck it under. This one has to be attached, because if it isn't attached, you can't get to the screw to tighten this side down. So now I think I can start bolting things up, and I'm going to do that as quickly as I can. Wish me luck. And I ain't doing nothing tight until I'm ready. And no, I didn't show you all my trial and error. Man alive, that blooper video would have been an hour long. Like, part of my confusion is the fact that this exhaust, intake manifold and preheater tubes pipe is not the one that was on the engine when I took it apart. If you go back and look at that episode, mine had the preheater pipes completely cut. So it was a lot easier to install because it only had these mounting points and these pipes not being there. There's one hinge point underneath the carburetor. It's a no-brainer install. When you got to get these things in the right spot, along with these and that, this is actually a 7-point attachment setup. That obviously is going to make things a little more complicated. Gotta love the dolly. Click. That's my homage to Elderly Iron. He's one of my favorite shows. If you haven't watched this stuff, get on there and watch it. Not brute force, but a little persuasion. And yes, I did just notice another mistake, but I don't have to take the whole thing apart to do that one. See this thing? It's supposed to be right there. I'll figure that out. Sounded like Curly from the Three Stooges there for a sec. I felt like one for a good chunk of this. Get on there. Odds are I'll fast forward on installing this one, because just getting these two things underneath there is a pain. Hey! Made it. No fast forwarding. I have a firm belief that I can figure everything out. I just don't time myself in how long it takes me to do that. I think if we all went through life like that, I think we'd be better off. Don't ask me when it got done, just ask me if. Alright. Time for a close-up. Snug. Locked in. Correct. Got to cinch that down a little bit more. Snug there. Snug back in there. And snug over there. I am calling this a win, but man, it was a timely one. Alright guys. I'm still marching on. Time for the fuel pump. RTV gasket, RTV plastic base that is also the column that the fuel pump push rod goes through. It is, by the way, round tip down. A little bit of RTV around that hole in the gasket. And now the fuel pump goes on. This fuel pump is a new one. I had it on the engine, I don't know, bought it several months ago when I started to work on getting the engine to turn over for the first time after I bought the car, just to make sure it was viable and worth tearing down and improving. So, rebuilt carb, good fuel pump. If you haven't seen my distributor video yet, you'll want to watch that. I think it was kind of a fun little deal I did, merging a 009 with a 034, so I've got both mechanical and vacuum advance. That's good to go. Got my hard line, got my check valve. Just to make it start a little better, I did put a one-way check valve. Fuel can go this way, it can't slide back. I think that's going to help a little bit in keeping some of the gas in the bowl. Obviously, there will still be some evaporation, but at least it won't just drain back out. Really starting to look like an engine, man. Dig it. Alright, so I'm going to real quick make sure that I'm at cylinder number 1, top dead center, and then I'm going to pop in the distributor. Cylinder number 1 is at top dead center, so I just have to rotate, and this should point. That's right, I did this differently. I had to change it up because I had to do this differently. My number 1 is in a different spot because I don't have a 009. It's changed significantly. So this is going to be top dead center for cylinder number 1. I'm not changing any crankshaft stuff. It's just going to be what it is. Forgot about that. So that's my cylinder number 1 now, is here. Labeled 1432. Locked in for now. And then I can lock in to the block, the distributor clamp. That hose is too long, but for now it's what I'm going to go with when I have to clean the engine up a little bit, and after installation I will look at shortening that up, make it a little bit more of a direct line. Right now I just don't need to cut it, so I won't. Yeah, it's a snug fit around the oil line, but that's fine. Time to pop that off so I can put the belt on. You tell I haven't done this before? Me too. I'm leaving the shims in place where they were when I got the engine. I know how to adjust it, on paper anyway, so I will take care of that. But there's no point in doing it way too much slop. So I'll be taking out probably the belt. I think this is the belt that was on the engine when I got it. That's a lot of play, but for now it'll work. Hard fuel line. This is the hard fuel line, goes through the hole in the firewall tin, I should say, at the back. Fuel filter, these are new rubber hoses, and it has to snake around back there. For my own peace of mind, I bought some DEI protective heat shielding, more than I need by a good amount, but I'll just cut it off and use that so that the part of the fuel line that is in the engine bay itself is a little bit more protected. Might as well just have it go over the rubber as well. See how this works. So that gets you to there. Yeah, I gotta cut it. All right. So this is the full length of it, of the hard line, and I obviously need to have it stop there because that's where it goes through the firewall. So that's where I'm going to cut it. Give myself a little extra. It's fraying a bit, but this is the end I didn't cut. So be it. Fuel line's on, grommet through the firewall, extra hose out the back, heat shielding where it goes around the valves. Not a real fan of how tight that turn is, so I may do something with these hoses. Maybe go with a longer one so that the filter ends up back here, so this is a little bit more of a sweeping curve. We'll see, but for right now it's gonna work. Here's the final piece of engine tin. This is where I cut out to go around the heat risers. So this will now just, in theory, slip in. I gotta pop this nut and bolt off because it's gonna clamp down on that. And then I've got a few more that will lock in here and here, and there and there. Tie it up, nice and done. Just like that. Here's hoping. Final piece of engine tin is on. Pretty happy with it. Minor gap around the heat riser there and there, but otherwise it's locked in, bolted in there, bolted in there on the two corners. Got that one back there. So I think in the grand scheme it's going to run a lot cooler, and that will be a success. Alright, with the oil bath on, I'm officially done with the reassembly, refresh, whatever you want to call it. I'm pretty happy with it. I know that I'm going to get better compression with new rings. I'm going to get just overall better operation by you know, honing the bores a little bit, getting all the oil gunk out of the main crankcase, giving it a little bit of a refresh. All the engine tins, it's going to run a lot cooler. Just, there's nothing that I did that I think is going to make it blow up. Well, at least I certainly hope not, right? So if you like what you see, give me a thumbs up, subscribe, leave a comment, and up next is probably going to be on bodywork, finishing the paint job, and then reassembly. See you guys.